Because did Scottie Pippen get traded? No, he didn't get traded. You were there. But that was life in the NBA back then, right? Back in the 90s, like Scottie Pippen's requested a trade. It's like, yeah, that's cute. You're not going anywhere. You're here on a ridiculous deal. The productivity that you were throwing out versus what we are paying you. Even like back in the mid 2000s, Kobe Bryant requested a trade and called into SportsCenter. It wasn't just like there might have been Twitter back then, but that's not how we broke news. Like Kobe Bryant was on a flip phone in a Ralph's parking lot somewhere in Los Angeles and told SportsCenter, yeah, I've requested a trade.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure old Jack hadn't even created the tweets yet, Justin.
Yeah, so, and
R.I.P. Jack, man.
Dr. Jerry Buss was like,
for what it's worth,
yeah, you're not going anywhere. But as we've learned now, in the NBA, trade requests, like almost always, don't want to say always, but almost always get met. It is a players' league because the players kind of figured out, like Anthony Davis, I think, was really one of the first, where Anthony Davis essentially went to the now Pelicans. Were they the Hornets still back then? No, it's still the Pelicans. He went to the Pelicans and was like, guys, I'm not re-signing. Just so you know. Like, I'm not re-signing, so if you don't trade me, this contract will lapse. I will not re-sign, and you will have nothing. Or you can trade me. And that was a year and a half left on the deal. And then got to 3 years left on the deal. And then it became where deals just became like it's the money's guaranteed, but in terms of committing you to a certain place, clearly. So Dame requests a trade. And I remember came in on that Saturday and we took calls. We talked like, man, what is going on? And it felt like, well, is it a done deal? Is he going to Miami? And then talks got real quiet. Training camp was about ready to start. I believe training camp might have even started. Like what's going to happen? And then, boom, news broke. Damian Lillard's going to Milwaukee. And like most of you, after the kind of shock of man, is he really gone? Yeah, he's really gone. It's a done deal. And you look at all right, what are the parameters? What are the works in the trade? It's a 3-team deal. Nurk's gone too? Wow. Got DeAndre Ayton. Got Drew Holiday. Yeah, Drew Holiday's not going to stick around. And then after the kind of dust settled, most of us went to our phone, went to our computer, and I was like, all right, when do the Milwaukee Bucks play against the Portland Trail Blazers? And it was like, man, January 31st. And back in October or September, that's going to be forever. Well, it's here. The day is here. The one game, because once we kind of figured that this Blazer team might have some exciting times, probably not going to win a lot of games, it became like, what's the one game? That's the one. Wednesday night, the 31st of January. Here we are. Dame is back in town, and it is going to be one of the most interesting nights, I think, in the history of Moda Center tonight. I have some thoughts on what to expect. Obviously, it is going to be a full crowd. I believe it's a sellout. It's going to be a full house, which hasn't been a full house all season long. There's going to be a lot of emotion. Obviously, it's going to be a big giant. I saw Mark Mason put on Twitter, what should I do? Do I introduce him at guard, Milwaukee Bucks, number 0, Damian Lillard? Does he do that? Or do I get I saw it was 93% of Blazer fans were no, we want to hear one more time, right? The letter O. Get the full Mark Mason treatment. And I think it was Travis Demers, Brenden, who told us last week, the first game, now it's a little bit different because he's coach, but the first game back to Detroit when Chauncey Billups was the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, the Pistons did the Chauncey did the whole thing. So I think we get the full intro, standing ovation. There's going to be some tears. I think there's going to be some tears in the because Brenden, I don't know about you, but like this whole time, even though like I don't believe my lying eyes, right? I see Dame hitting game winners and doing game time, and he's wearing a Milwaukee Bucks jersey. I was like, man, that's just weird. And it's like, but it hasn't settled in yet. It hasn't settled, and tonight it settles in. Yep, it's a done. Like, maybe I'm just that's the way I compartmentalize, but it's like, yeah, he's really on the Bucks. He's gonna come to Moda Center. He's gonna come in on the bus. Maybe he takes a right when he should have taken a left, and he's like, oh, that's right, I don't go. Like, he's going to go to the other locker room. He's going to warm up on the other side of the court, and it's going to be something. Obviously, tribute video is going to play. Might be the longest tribute video that we've ever seen, but it's definitely going to be the most deserving tribute video. So, I want to go back to something, and we're going to talk about this coming up in about 7 minutes or so. Something that Devon Pouncey said yesterday, which is players and the connections to their city. It used to be a fairly common thing. Bird to Boston, Patrick Ewing to New York, Jordan to Chicago, Keem Olajuwon to Houston, right? Those guys and those players, Stockton and Malone in Utah, and not all of them finished their careers there, but they all had a connection to their city. Gary Payton and Sean Kemp to the Seattle Sonics fans. Even when the Sonics are gone, it's still Payton and Kemp, right? Dame has a connection to the city, but it's not quite what it was. And obviously, I know that times have changed, economics have changed, and I want to dive into this on the other side about who out there in the NBA either has or has the potential to kind of have that connection to that city, the way that Damian Lillard has a connection to this city, and it's unfortunate that it really is personified when he comes back on another team. So definitely going to dive into that. Other things, though, to dive into on the big show today. There was a ridiculous statement made on, wasn't Inside the NBA, but it's the TNT tip-off show. It was not the Shaq, Chuck, Kenny, the Jet, and Ernie. It was the other crew.
The B crew.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that.
It's fair, Justin.
I was thinking it, didn't want to say it.
Just like this morning, Greg Olson realized he's going to be the big crew next year.
I think he might have had a clue. But yeah, how about your boy Tom Brady dropping that casually on Pat McAfee yesterday? It's like, Fox is going to have the Super Bowl, and I'm going to call it. And they're like, oh, he's going to call it. Okay.
Tom!
Which we all knew. Like, you're not – what are they paying him? Like,
well, it's like $100 million over 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's Tom,
of course
man.
He's calling the Super Bowl.
Still looks like he can toss that pigskin around, Justin. Not gonna lie.
It's that TB12 lifestyle,
dude,
man.
Looking great, man.
It's all that avocado ice cream,
right.
And the keeping the nightshades. I think his nightshades are out on his diet. Anyways,
how many hyperbolic chambers does he have, Justin?
He probably got one in each room. He's probably got a lot of rooms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably got a lot of rooms. So yeah.
You're right. He is single now. So a lot more room in the house.
Yeah. But no, Jamal Crawford was on NBA on TNT last night, and he was talking about, he had an interesting statement that I disagree with, but about the 65 game quota. So we'll play that for you coming up, and we'll talk about that coming up in Round Ball Rock. A lot of football stuff. Boy, what does it say about your particular football organization when an assistant coach essentially says thanks but no thanks? I understand why maybe the Washington Commanders maybe isn't the biggest or greatest destination in the NFL. Now, there's only 32 NFL coaching jobs. But I can understand where if you were a coach going like, yeah, there's going to be some openings coming up next year. I don't know if I want to go to the Commanders, considering it's new ownership. There's a lot of things in flux, and doesn't have the best track record in terms of, let's just say, organizational value. But now the Seahawks were spurned by an assistant coach. Now, I don't know how much of that is on the Seahawks. I don't know how much of that was maybe, and I've said this before, I believe coaching circles in the NFL are very, very small. And I got a hunch Ben Johnson may have got wind that, yeah, Seattle's looking at McDonald and they're looking at Quinn, and it ain't you. So why not break up with them before they can break up with you type of situation. But interesting move by Ben Johnson, just like, because it sounded like he was on the way to the Commanders, where he's like, yep, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back and I'm going to work with Dan Campbell, because guess what? His name's going to pop up again next year. So we'll dive into that. We know how much money Jim Harbaugh's making in Los Angeles. We know how much the Michigan Wolverines offered him. So we will dive into that as well. And obviously, we got Tyson Alger coming up in hour number 3. Portland Diamond Project with a bit of news yesterday. So may talk some Diamond Project, but Damian Lillard is back. He is got a connection, unlike a lot of other players in this league. Is this going to be something that stays few and far between? What players in the NBA actually have connections to cities? We'll talk about that next year on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, big night in the old building over on Moda Center as Damian Lillard is going to be back in town. And we were talking about this with friend of the program, Devon Pouncey, yesterday, that, it is a rarity. Some may say it's a rare condition this day and age. Oh, wait, no, that's the Full House song. Read any good news on the newspaper page? But it is a bit of a rarity anymore, I think, especially in the NBA. And again, not criticism and observation. Not right, not wrong, just different. But the idea of kind of having a connection and kind of having ownership of a city. It used to be a common thing. Magic Johnson owned and I think that's one of the things that bugs LeBron James so much is no matter what he does, just so everyone knows, like no matter what LeBron James does for the Lakers, you will never be Magic and you will never be Kobe.
Like, he had Kareem in there too? Or did he pass Kareem with the scoring?
He passed Kareem with the scoring, but and I'm not a Los Angelino, and I am not a Los Angeles Laker fan. I do know some folks that live down there, and I would say if you ask them, like Laker legend, it's Magic and it's Kobe, and it's probably determined upon age, but that's it, right? Those are the guys. They own the city. That Magic Johnson, not only he bought the Dodgers, he put up Starbucks and movie theaters everywhere, right? He revitalized parts of this. Like Magic Johnson owned LA. And when, sadly no longer with us, but Kobe had that same kind of connection to the fan base.
He did. And LeBron doesn't.
And LeBron never will. Because, again, what we're about to talk about right now.
So do you think there are other guys on that list, too, who maybe not basketball stats-wise, but just Laker lore? Like, do you think there are Laker fans who are like, yeah, I'd take Kareem over LeBron. I'd take Jerry West over LeBron. Like, do you think there's any... you're picking from a lot of legends.
But they all pale in comparison to Kobe and Magic.
Yeah.
So that's what you could rank who's the greatest Lakers of all time? I'm sure probably like when times get a little bit lean down in L.A., they probably do that on the L.A. radio shows.
There's a lot of good guys to compare.
But in terms of what I'm talking about here, which is a connection to the city, the way Jordan was to Chicago, right? He's our guy. This is our guy. Again, that's one of the reasons that led to the Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan,
What's the criteria here, Justin? Are we looking for like superstars entirely?
It's a good question. I think it's a gut feel.
Because I have a name that I want to throw out there.
Okay, let's set the parameters real quick.
Yeah,
so back when I was growing up, when you thought of Larry Bird, you thought of Boston. Right? When you didn't think of Indiana, where he's from and where he played college. You thought of Larry Bird, you thought of Boston. When you thought of Patrick Ewing, you think of New York, the New York Knicks. You didn't think about Georgetown. When you thought about Jordan, you thought about Chicago. When you thought about Magic, it was L.A., right? Like Hakeem and Houston, Stockton to Malone, that's Utah. Like that's ownership of a city, having, a connection. And obviously, as the years went along and players got more leverage and players move around, that became less and less of a thing. So let me give you an example. Kevin Durant's going to go down as one of the greatest players in NBA history, in my personal opinion. One of the greatest bucket getters, maybe the greatest bucket getter of all time, but top 75, top 50, top 20, whatever you want to do, Kevin Durant is one of those guys. Talent for talent, he is as good as anybody that's ever played in the league. He didn't own a city, right? Because he left Oklahoma City, and then he left Golden State, and it didn't work in Brooklyn, and now he's in Phoenix. He doesn't own a city. Shaq's one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest personalities of all time. Maybe Orlando, but not really. Like we mentioned, L.A. is Kobe and Magic Town. Miami, that's Dwayne Wade's town. They put a statue up. Put a statue up, Dwayne Wade. Shaq's one of the greatest. He doesn't own a city. So the way that, like, Damian Lillard, he had Portland. There's a connection there. It's going to be emotional when he comes back. When Kevin Durant goes back to Oklahoma City, I don't think there's emotion, but it ain't sadness. You know what I mean? It ain't what was. It's not lamenting about the breakup. It's some anger still. So that's kind of the parameters. Does that make sense? And I don't have any qualifiers other than just kind of like a feel. Because, welcome to the show. I'm a vibes analyst. So I believe Giannis in Milwaukee. That's boom. There's nobody else in and around Milwaukee that I think fans think more fondly of, especially with the way Aaron Rodgers left.
Depends on how old you are. If you're old enough to remember when Kareem brought you your first title with
That's pretty old, though. That's pretty old.
Just asking. I mean,
you're right.
Before Giannis, that was their only title.
Yeah, but I'm talking about guys in the league right now, in the league currently, like Giannis he could have left to the Knicks, right? He could have. Remember when he signed that extension a handful of years ago? And it was like, what is Giannis doing? And he's like, yeah, no, I want to build something here. Now, that could all fall apart if this whole Dame thing doesn't work. But, like, Giannis has a connection with Milwaukee. We talked about this yesterday with Pounce. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. But the Bay Area, it's not like Steph's town. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure for Warriors fans, it's like he's the greatest Warrior of all time, and he's the greatest shooter of all time. But there's a lot. That's Joe Montana, right? That is the Raiders. I know they're not there anymore, but that's still Willie Mays and Barry Bonds and all of. There's a lot going on in the Bay. Joel Embiid. I think there is an interesting relationship there in Philly, but I don't think the people of Philadelphia revere Joel Embiid like, say, they do Allen Iverson, or they did Allen Iverson. Who would be the guy that owns Philly? Probably Mike.
Dr. J.
Dr. J.
Yeah, Dr. J.
Mike Schmidt.
Go back to the title years. So I'd say Dr. J. It's all about the rings, Justin.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's winners get sprinkles.
That's 100% true. But like also, Mike Schmidt with the Philadelphia Phillies.
I can't think of anybody else active. But like for me, this conversation stops and finishes with Dirk. I'm surprised that Mark Cuban, when he sold, didn't find a way to loop Dirk into that because. Like, Dirk owns Dallas. Like, Dirk
basketball-wise,
yeah.
He comes into Dallas. He gets a standing O every time. People are excited that he's there. But
and then number two would probably be Tim Duncan probably owns San Antonio. Yeah. Tim Duncan walks into San Antonio. That's
100%.
Mr. Fun, big fundamental.
So if guys in the league right now, Giannis, yes. Jokic, definitely. Definitely, like, after you said it, rings, baby. He brought a ring. He brought a parade to Denver.
First one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, first NBA championship.
We'll never have to pay for anything in Denver ever again.
Just like when John Elway's Denver was John Elway's town. Still is, by the way. Still is.
Oh, yeah.
But like from a basketball perspective, there is a connection that Jokic has. LeBron doesn't have it. Maybe in Cleveland when it's all said and done, but in the end, he brought them their championship. He got them their parade. He left them twice. You know? He broke up with me twice.
Third time's a charm?
Luka, no, not yet.
He's not Dirk. That's the problem.
Dirk. As we mentioned, Durant, no. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has a chance if he stays in Oklahoma City.
And how much of
forever? But you'd have to stay forever. And how long does that happen in the NBA?
It's rare. Like with Dirk, Justin, do you think that because obviously Luka, not to disparage Dirk, but I think Luka is more talented than Dirk was. I think
there's not many people in the NBA more talented than Luka.
Right. So
now,
do you think
effort and and durability and
Dirk
crybabiness?
played for a long time.
There's some other things going on with Luka, whom I love. But
Dirk was tough, man. But, like to that point, Justin, like Dallas Maverick fans. So, like, again, I don't even want to say the Spurs because they were 5-time champions. Dallas Maverick fans. Mm-hmm. You're talking about 20 years ago, this tech mogul bought the team. Really long hair, too. Tech mogul at the time. Yeah. Not the best-looking Mark Cuban. He kind of fixed the hair and figured out how to be a little bit more classy with money as time went on.
Hair's funny, though, Yeah. It's the one thing, I think it drives rich guys crazy. No. Hair is the one thing you cannot, I don't believe you can buy.
Yeah?
True. You can't, if your hair is thinning, you can get plugs, but they look like plugs.
It's true.
Your hair goes gray, you can color it, but But dude, that looks like Dr. Pepper, right? You've seen the Dr. Pepper hair.
Yeah.
Like, Mark Davis is super rich.
Yeah.
Terrible hair.
Yeah.
You can't buy it.
Yeah, but with that, Justin, you remember that championship. That's Dallas's only championship.
Yes.
Even still, as we sit here now, Dirk, Jason Kidd, and an aging Jason Kidd, I believe he retired after that year, and a bunch of role players beat LeBron and the Heat.
Yes.
And even still, all these years later, it's probably the most improbable finish we've had. I remember, it was, Mavericks have no chance. They have no chance. So that's where I think,
new witness. Remember, I'm a new witness.
It's so I think Dirk, Luka's going to win a title or two before he ever passes Dirk.
Again, Luka does not have that, I don't believe, has that same connection to the city of Dallas that Dirk did. And again, this is all a compliment to and kind of a sad realization of what Damian Lillard had. This is why we brought it up. It is what we're going to see tonight, I believe, is such a rarity because, when Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City and came back, I'm sure, didn't they boo him and he threw a fit about it?
It was so bad when they booed him.
They booed him and he threw a fit about it. And it's like, dude, what? And again.
He did get cheered when Golden State played Brooklyn, though. I'll say that. And I bet they did. But so no hard feelings
they're still
there.
winning. But that's why I'm saying this is not right, not wrong. It's just what it is. It's just different, and that's why what we're going to see tonight with Dame is such a rarity. Yeah, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if he stays and wins a championship in Oklahoma City and plays his entire career there, that's the other thing. To own a city like Milwaukee, Portland, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, places where that's it. You know what I mean? I know that they care about the Packers in Milwaukee, and there are the Brewers, and shout out to Robin Yount, right? Never forget Robin Yount, but, that's Giannis's town right now. That's it. Tyrese Halliburton, still way too early. Again, Embiid, the championship thing in the big cities, that's such a huge deal.
Let me ask you this. If I know he wouldn't be the top, but say Jimmy Butler broke through one of these last couple years they were in the finals and got one, does that put him probably number 2 behind Shaq or behind Dwayne Wade? Or does Alonzo Mourning figure in there? The Heat were objectively terrible before 2006 as a franchise.
It'll be interesting. The Heat, it's Miami is a different entity,
it
right?
Sure is.
It's in America, and again, I've never been to Miami.
Just not really.
But it's unlike any other place, from what I understand. Never been there. Don't really care to go there, but not my cup of tea. But from a sports town perspective, it's an interesting place. Let's just say that. But I think with Jimmy Butler, I think moved around too much. He moved around too much. He was in Chicago. He was in Minnesota. He was in Philly. And then finally caught on. And I'm not saying he's not beloved, but do you think, when Jimmy Butler retires and, comes back to Miami, is it going to be an event? Because it is when Dwayne Wade comes back.
If he won a title. I really think it's that cliche.
But Dame didn't even win a title here. And it's no matter what happens, when Dame comes back, it's a thing now. And obviously still very, very new. And this is the first time back. And, he was out at Adidas. And he talked about how one day he wants to play for the Blazers again. And his connection to the city and all that stuff. But, I don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to have that Dwayne Wade does. Yes.
Question for you, Justin. Kind
I
of
love
a
it.
funny, kind of a fun-spirited one here on a Wednesday. I did see that video. Obviously, Damon is awesome Mercedes Sprinter van at Adidas. Do you think he checked in on the old dealership out in McMinnville, or do we not
I'm
know
sure
what
he's got
happened?
a guy for that.
Or do we not know what happened? Is Lower Toyota still rolling?
Still rolling.
That's good. That's good.
I think he's got a guy for that.
You didn't want to check in on the car inventory? Go out to the great city of McMinnville?
Now, I don't know Damian Lillard as a businessman, and I don't know how hands-on he is, but I have a hunch he pays somebody to take care of the day-to-days. I don't think he's out there kicking the tires on a Corolla going like, gang, we need the I need the 24s over there. Where's my tube dude? Right? Where's that guy?
I just was curious.
I don't think he's doing that.
Sure
I think he's got a person. I shouldn't even say a guy. He's got a person.
You don't think he was
who
like,
probably
hey,
oversees the entire operation?
You don't think he was like, hey, I'm going to call my good buddy, CJ McCollum. Hey, CJ, I'll check on your winery. I'm going to go out to McMinnville, check out my dealership.
I have and again, I don't know. I have a hunch. Dame said, put my name on that and cut me a check. Got it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Done.
He's been out there. He was out there a couple times, though, back when he was here.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But it's like, put my name on the thing. You guys sell the cars. You cut me a check every year. I can do that for you. No problem. I don't know if he's, I don't know if he's checking on the inventory of the 2024s. Blowout sale. We got to make room for the 24.
Heck yeah, baby.
My favorite car commercial stuff. Is we've got to make room for the 24, so blowout sale. I think he just gets a check.
A blowout.
I think Dame just...
Could you imagine it's like Dame, this Sunday at Lillard Toyota.
I know.
That'd be funny.
That used to be a big deal, man. They would have those, and they were like, free hot dogs for the kids, right? Or it's good time. Good times. Now you just get on your phone and just... done that too. Get on my phone. It's like, all right, well, I want this car, and then all of a sudden you got to be careful with the algorithms. My X algorithm is all jacked up. Don't have time to talk about that now. We are going to wrap up hour number one, and we're going to dive into something that was on the NBA on TNT last night with Jamal Crawford. So we'll dive into that as we wrap up hour none. Plus, the Lakers keep losing. And LeBron is subtweeting again. He's subtweeting and sub-Xing, whatever you want to call it. So we'll dive into all that. Now, before we get to that, I do want to tell you about the good folks at DeBella, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. Talk about a connection to the city. DeBella is it. DeBella.us is where you need to go for a free, no-obligation appointment to make updating your home so easy. With the winter weather being what it was a couple of weeks ago. And you know what? The winter weather's not going anywhere. It may be nice and pleasant now, but we know that cold weather could come right around the corner. If you want to save up to 30% on your energy bills, well, you need to get a hold of DeBella because they can take care of your roofing, your windows, siding renovations. If your roof is leaking or just aging, you can get a free quote right now at DeBella. Plus, you can take advantage of an amazing financing opportunity. 0 down. And no payments until 2025. Of course, that's on approved credit, but you heard me right. 0 down and no payments until 2025 on approved credit. And don't take my word for it. Don't take DeBella's word for it. Take their customers' word for it. Over 15,000 five-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. Windows, siding, roofing, even bath renovations. DeBella.us for a free, no-obligation appointment. Get a hold of them today. DeBella, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. right, time to wrap up hour number one. Obviously, big story in the NBA, at least in these parts, is the return of Damian Lillard. He's going to be back at Moda Center, and the tip time, 7 o'clock. Games on ESPN. We're going to have, of course, pregame coverage here on 620 Rip City Radio. So a lot of Damian Lillard stuff, and we'll continue to talk about it. But other things in and around the NBA last night, including some interesting comments from Jamal Crawford, a guy who I like very, very much, Pacific Northwest guy, Seattle guy. But some interesting comments from him. But first, we need some Tesh. And second, we got to laugh at the Lakers. Let's go. All right. Real quick, let's check in on the Lakers. They are now under 500. They are 24-25. They just lost to the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks, by the way, not having a banner year. They're 20-27. Kind of a disappointment, wouldn't you say? Like the Hawks are. They've been a disappointment for the last couple of years since they went on that run a handful of years ago, beating the Knicks and everything. But
Fool's gold.
The Lakers lose last night. LeBron tweets out an hourglass that is running out of sand. Apparently, I'm told that's significant. I don't know.
Is his face okay from the night before?
Turns out he's all right.
Okay.
He's all right. So, fun fact, Lakers lose. We all laugh. Now, we did this whole song and dance last year, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals. So I make fun of the Lakers with caution. Now, this is something that I have been talking about for a while. The idea and the mindset of NBA players not wanting to play in NBA games. And right now, to be eligible for MVP of the league, you have to play in 65 games. So, vis-a-vis, let's do the math. You can only miss 17 games. I believe Joel Embiid has now missed 13 games. And there's a handful of other guys that are sitting right around 14 and 15. They were talking about the rule on the NBA on TNT last night. Now, this was not Charles and Kenny and Shaq. Oh, Shaq. But Jamal Crawford, and I forget the dude. He wears turtlenecks a lot. He's pretty good. But I don't know his name. Anyways, I know Jamal Crawford. And Jamal Crawford, when prompted, talked about the 65-game limit for awards, and he had this to say.
We all want these guys to play. Like, that's what they do. That's what we do as athletes. But if we're risking further injury or compensation or anything for that, I understand what the NBA was doing as far as, okay, let's get these guys playing, but not if Joel Embiid is hurt, it doesn't matter if the Sixers' second, third, fourth, and fifth option are unbelievable. It won't matter. And for the league, that's not good because these guys are so important. So I'm just hoping it's not serious, and we'll have to look at that because as fans, I don't have a vote. I think you have a vote, Lefko. Mm-hmm. Even if they played whatever number it is, people still have to vote for them if they made it or not. They shouldn't have to risk themselves and their livelihood to say I need to meet a quota to be eligible for this stuff.
They're basketball players. We're asking them to play basketball.
So just that means you should be able to not do your job and still get paid. So
well, because I'm so valuable, right? Isn't that what they're saying? But again, you're valuable because you're good at playing basketball. When you stop playing basketball, you become less valuable. And I don't want to dive into a whole thing on the definition of the most valuable player. Something one of my favorite sports talk show lazy arguments is MVP is most valuable. It doesn't mean the best. No, it means the best. But I'm sorry if you miss a quarter of the season, you're not valuable. You're not the MVP. The MVP, there's no way if you miss 17 games in an NBA season, you should not be the MVP. And I'm sorry, you don't get to get your fun little trophy. And on top of that, I understand that there's a money factor here. Because you have to be eligible to make NBA all NBA teams. So these awards are locked into the Supermax, correct? Right? If you win 6th man of the year, if you were first or second team all NBA, if you are, I think, top 3 in MVP voting, all of that, then you become eligible for the Super. Now, that was a collectively bargained thing that the players agreed to, who may want to go back and maybe rethink it. But how are you valuable for playing basketball if you're not willing to play basketball? Nobody in the sports world wants guys to play injured. Is it too much to ask that they play hurt? Because anybody that's ever played JV football in their life knows that there's a difference between being injured and hurt. We all had our coach stand over the top of us like, are you injured or are you hurt? Because if you're just a little hurt, you can get back up and get in that huddle. If you're injured, well, then you got to go to the sideline. We've all had that. Anybody that's ever played JV football had that speech read to us. It's actually funny now. But I don't think any player should have to play if they're injured. But if you're experiencing a smidge of discomfort, the idea that you only play on the best case, and by the way, Joel Embiid's not fooling anybody that he got a smidge of discomfort every time he goes to play Jokic in Denver. Right? Sorry, cat's out of the bag. And that's the problem here, is that this became more about status and power than actually being about playing NBA basketball. Because I would say to Jamal Crawford, there's a lot of guys in this league who play 38 minutes a night, but they're not MVP caliber. They're not first-team All-NBA caliber. Heck, they're not going to win 6 Man of the Year, but they play 38 minutes a night, and they play 80 games a year. You just don't talk about them because they're not superstars. They're risking their livelihood. They're still making $8, $9, $12 million a year. That ain't chump change. We don't care about them, right? We don't care about any of the guys who are in the rotation and they don't take a night off because they're just not feeling it. So again, we've reached a pure level of silliness, which, you know, it's like, Brenden, you love your car. I love that you love your car. It makes me like, it is, at this point in your life, it is your biggest investment. And I'm sure, and you park so far away because you don't want to park near anybody because you love, but like, could you imagine if like, well, I got this car and the more miles I put on it, the less value it has. It's like, yeah, but it has no value sitting in your garage. There's no value sitting in your garage.
True.
But it doesn't have any miles on it. Think about the value. Yeah, but it doesn't have any value to you right now. NBA players who don't play basketball don't have value. And you're sitting on the bench. And it's been proven that rest does not equal playoff success. That's been proven.
And it's interesting because I saw, again, just something I saw on Twitter, and it was obviously that, Adam Silver had signed his contract extension. And, someone said, like, it was about this Embiid thing. Like, would this have happened when David Stern was commissioner? Absolutely not. There would never be this much. And we've said this before. I think we have overcorrected to a point where governors don't even have really control over their players. Not like you should, but you know what I mean. Like, it's not the NFL. And the NFL, like, could you imagine, Justin, like Lamar Jackson being like, or Mahomes against the Dolphins? Yeah, I need to wait until we get to the next round. I don't want to try to hurt myself. I mean, and I know they sit out the final week of the regular season if you've clinched, but that's so much different than load managing.
So much different than load managing. Also, and what do I got, about 90 seconds? I understand 17 games is not 82. I understand that. But from a fan's perspective, when you see Patrick Mahomes last year sprain his ankle and then tape it up, walk it off, go out and gut out a playoff win, that's what draws people into your league. There's a lot of other factors here. Don't get me wrong. A lot of other factors. But that's one of the things that draws people into your league. And that's why when you look at the numbers, the NFL is crushing the NBA. When you look at the numbers. Now, there's a lot of other factors. But that's one of them. All right. Coming up, we've got hour number 2. We got Make or Miss. I have a concept of a new segment. We're going to try it out. We're going to beta test it. Concept of a new segment. It's going to be a lot like an old segment, but with a fun new name. So hour number 2 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Big night at Moda Center tonight as Damian Lillard, the letter O, back in the 503 as his Milwaukee Bucks will be taking on your Portland Trail Blazers. Tip time at 7 o'clock. We got pregame coverage at 4:30 right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. NFL news, the Seattle Seahawks coaching target Ben Johnson announced yesterday he will not be going to Seattle. He will not be going to D.C. He will be going to Detroit and stay as a coordinator as he has pulled his name out of the running for both the Commanders and the Seahawks head coaching searches. The Seahawks coaching search continues. And in Major League Baseball news, the Baltimore Orioles are expected to be sold for $1.8 billion. That's billion with a B. Hour number 3, we'll talk to Tyson Alger, friend of the program. But hour number 2 of Rip City Mornings starts right now. 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
It is Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers. You are correct, big boys. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Justin Myers with you, super producer Brenden, right over there. We got Make or Miss coming up in a bit. New segment alert. We've done some things. We've changed some things around here in 2024. Some parts of the show had become, I feel, stale. And those segments that I felt weren't really catching on, out. Now, they're just segments. They don't have feelings. They don't have emotions, so we don't feel bad. But we're going to try some new things out. I mean, that's just kind of how this show works. As the old saying goes, let's throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. You aware of the origin of that phrase, Brenden? Because it's one that a lot of people use, and I don't know if a lot of people understand what it actually is supposed to be. Do you know what that phrase is talking about?
At least I think I do. It was something like from the old days, they knew that the pizza dough, when they were spinning it, was good if it would stick.
See, I always thought it was spaghetti.
Oh, yeah. I heard pizza dough.
Spaghetti noodles. Really? You heard pizza dough?
Like, when
so you take like a little one, like a little guy?
And then if it, and you throw it and it sticks. That was always like...
So you think people were throwing an entire pizza dough that they're about to put sauce, cheese, and pepperoni and just...
That was the
throwing it up against the wall.
That was the old wives' tale I always heard. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
None of this is true.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if I fully believe it, but it sounds kind of cool to know that.
Maybe they took just like a little
piece of dough,
a little piece, and then threw that.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's
I always
how
thought
I
it was pasta.
Heard.
It was like let's just throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, and then if it sticks to the wall, then it's done.
I've heard that term a lot more in our business, Justin.
Yeah.
People where it's like, yes, it's not even so much just like it's very common in this business. It's we're going to say things. We're going to see if it hits kind of a thing,
It's the hardest part of this business, and this business is not that difficult. All right. Trust me. You guys that are out there delivering Amazon packages. I saw a dude deliver an Amazon package on my way into work, and I'm like, dude, like, way to go. Thank you for making it so that I don't have to take my lazy rear end to the store. Or anybody that is working physical manual labor or, delivering bread or delivering, stocking shelves, all that stuff, right? That's all much, much harder than me flapping my gums. But one of the hardest things is like sometimes certain things work and we just don't know why. Why did that conversation work? Don't know why. Just worked. Well, let's try it again. And then you try it again and it's like, it's not working. Well, why didn't it work? I don't know. Magic wasn't there. Can't quantify it. But I do remember one time as a child, I took a piece of spaghetti as my mom was cooking it and threw it against the wall. And I was so proud of myself. And she didn't even get mad because it was funny. I was like, I go, is the spaghetti done? She's like, I think so. And so I grabbed one and I threw it against the wall. And she's like, yeah, you're going to clean that up. But I'm just saying. That's how we're supposed to find out. So, we're going to try something new out coming up in about 40 minutes, tentatively called Stuff I Found on the Internet. I see a lot of stuff. My algorithm is jacked up, and I see a lot of stuff, and I think it's interesting. My wife does not find it interesting, so you guys are going to get the benefit of it of stuff I saw on the Internet that we're going to definitely talk about coming up in 40 minutes. And like we mentioned, we got Make or Miss as well. Damian Lillard coming back to Portland tonight. That's obviously a huge deal. There's going to be some cheers. There's going to be some tears. I think it's going to be an emotional night for both Dame. I hope it's an emotional night for certain members of this Blazers organization to realize what they had. Probably won't. I would imagine for a guy like Mark Mason, maybe an emotional, there's a lot of stuff that I think a lot of Blazer fans stuffed deep down because we didn't want to believe it was real. Now, maybe that's just me, and maybe because I maybe have an unhealthy way of dealing with certain emotional things. But, Brenden, I think we're going to see an outpouring of emotion from a lot of Blazer fans in the building tonight who maybe spent the last 4 months kind of pretending it wasn't real. And then we're going to see Dame, and he's going to walk out, and he's going to be wearing a jersey, and it's not going to be a pinwheel. It's going to have deer antlers on it, and I think it's going to bring out some stuff tonight. I really do. I'm curious if I get emotional sitting on the couch. Now, if there was a tribute video, which is probably going to happen, and maybe some emotional music, what's a guaranteed to make Brenden Slaughter cry? I've got two things that guaranteed make Justin Myers cry.
I'm not sure. What would you guess?
Soldiers coming home videos. Oh boy, cry every time. Anytime they do, at the stadium, and it's the family is here, and Lieutenant Johnson, who's serving our country, left a message, and then they turn around to see the message, but he's there. Every time. Soldier coming home video, cry every time. Especially when they'll put, the song, the music behind it and edit it up. And then dogs.
Oh, the ASPCA commercials. Those get me every time.
I got to change the channel.
Yeah, it's bad.
Sarah McLaughlin, you're killing me.
It's bad.
Look, take all my money. Just please don't make, but no, anything
But see, Justin, that's where you and I.
When I see, when you combine the two, soldier coming home, dog recognizes, and I cry every time. I weeping mess every time. And I try to sit on the couch because Kelly's next to me going are you crying? I'm not crying. Trying to push it that.
You would.
I don't know if I'm going to well up tonight. I don't
know.
I know you're not because
I don't think so.
I think you're not I think you're still in the anger stage, and that's fine.
Yeah,
you're unshunned for tonight, though. You said
it's apathy. It's
You think you're in the apathy mode?
Well, it's just I don't really care. I don't really. Yeah, it's just it's one of those things where it's a cool deal, tip of the cap kind of thing, but you're not here and have nothing to do with Portland's future success. So it's you honor him for what he was, but it's like Justin says, reason the windshield is so big and the rearview mirror is so small. So I'll look at Dame in my rearview mirror and say, thanks for the memories, Dame, Fallout Boy style. But, is Dame going to help him rebuild? No.
No, it's not. I know.
But yeah.
It's true.
Apathy. I'm not angry anymore.
I've spent a lot of time, and I'm just talking about me real quick. But I've spent a lot of time, trying to be present, right? Want to be, not looking back and going, man, I have this weird thing where I'll lay in bed and I'll think of, stuff from, 10 years ago. And I was boy, I really handled that silly. And, yeah, they maybe just be in the moment and try to get some rest. So while I do say things like windshield's bigger than the rear view, which is a great saying. I use it often, or 10 toes down, or I don't always practice what I preach. Sometimes I look back. And so, yeah, I think for a lot of, I don't know, maybe a lot of Blazer fans, maybe just Blazer fans like me, are they don't know what you got till it's gone. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. Maybe end of the road. You said thanks for the memories, which is a great way of looking at it because it's true. It's the end of the road.
Yeah,
Boys to men.
And if anything, it'll just evoke the emotions that
hard to say goodbye.
That were so frustrating to begin with, Justin, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't.
I know.
That's where the upset or the pain comes from. It's we talked earlier about all these players who are beloved, by their city, and not to say that Dame still isn't, but imagine if Dame was on like the Dirk path, right? And he had spent 20-some years here. They got one ring. They got one, got over the hump. It's just the fact that they kind of failed him at the end. And then on top of it, his side of kind of like being like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Like it.
I know.
It's just hard, right?
We're not quite there yet, though, where like enough time has passed. It's still like
a little raw.
Still like we broke up at the end of summer and now it's Thanksgiving break. I've seen that a lot. And that never happened to me, but like that was always like, we're going to college. It's a fun summer. We're not going to do long distance. And then you come home and Thanksgiving, and it's like, nope, it's too soon. It's too soon. But yeah, Dame's going to be back in the building. If you had to pick the music, would you go? Because thanks for the memories. Like Fall Out Boy's a good one. That's. What about the I'm coming home? I'm coming home.
I'd almost
coming home. But I guess he's not.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not his home right now, though.
You're gonna probably roll your eyes at me. In the end, Linkin Park.
That's an interesting one.
'Cause in the end, yeah, it's like I'd go something like that. Something got to give a little bit of rock to it. Get a little, a little jazz. I don't think it could be like a. And again, we love Sarah McLachlan on the show, but you're not getting,
not Arms to the Angel.
You're
he's not dead. He's going to be playing for the
jazzed for like Sarah McLachlan.
It's not like when Jim Harbaugh was suspended and they acted like he was dying.
Pretty much. It's true. But yeah, something in the middle, like a little rock, little, something like that. Get everyone amped up before inevitably the Bucks probably have a really big game.
What's the spread? What are we looking at tonight?
That's a great question.
What are we looking at tonight?
What do you got?
Whatever the over is for Dame, I'm going to take the take the over.
We may talk about that in Make or Miss.
10.5 bucks.
That's a fair spread. That's a fair
10.5.
That's fair.
I don't know. I think
You think they cover that?
I'm also curious, like, how Anthony Simon's going to play. That's going to be, I think, because it could go one of two ways, right? Anthony Simons could come out and be like, yeah, here we go. The student has become you know what I mean? Like
Malcolm Brogdon revenge game?
What do they call it? The Padawang? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
now I am the master. But no.
But yeah, so I'm curious like how Anthony Simons is going to play.
Brogdon was traded away from Milwaukee, so does he have a little bit of motivation?
But that was a while ago, right? Like 3 seasons ago? Because I thought he came from Boston.
He did, but yeah, I think where he started his career. So yeah, Mike, you never know. But
it is interesting though that like this entity of the Blazers, other than Anthony Simons, maybe Jeremy Grant, there really isn't a connection to Damian Lillard. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, they've
Aiden,
got
no.
the team.
Brogdon, no. Thibault, no.
Shaden, but they're not going to play. Shaden's not playing.
Shaden's not playing.
Thibault
and Shaden was
right.
I thought it was there for like 2 months last year.
Yeah, it was like a couple months. I guess
if there was a.
Maybe it was a deadline last year.
But Anthony Simons,
yeah, that's a good one.
Curious. Do you think he has a big game? Comes out, tries to.
Simons or Dame?
Simons.
I think he's going to come out and shoot the ball 20, 25 times. For sure.
See if he makes it. If Ant has a big game. Could be a fun night for the boys.
Hey, I'm just saying, Justin.
If Ant doesn't,
mono, like want to get a mono. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
One could argue, Justin, and again, I'm just going off of what I was told, so I would never know. One person could tell you that the number 1 and number 2 most talented players Neil O'Shea drafted are going head to head tonight.
They are.
Let's see. Justin,
Neil O'Shea said it, and we'll find out.
Top players.
7:00 tonight. That's
gonna be exciting though.
That's Bucks Blazers. I'm nervous for some weird reason. All right, I'm not nervous for Make or Miss because that's coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. talk to Tyson Alger, the I-5 corridor. Get his thoughts on Dame's return tonight to Moda Center. Obviously, Tyson, big Seattle Mariners fan. Mariners fans dealt with this years ago with Ken Griffey Jr. And obviously, the Seattle Seahawks fans had the whole Russell Wilson thing, but it's a little different circumstances. I think the Griffey part of it with regard to the Mariners is not exactly an apples to apples comparison, but I think it's closer than, say, the Russell Wilson was, right? Russell Wilson, there's a lot of anger because didn't have to leave, didn't have to break up the band, chose to. And, you really kind of find out, like it's, I don't know if this is an appropriate comparison, but I'm going to make it anyways. Brenden, have you ever had a friend that was dating somebody and you just didn't like her? You just not a fan, just didn't like her. But yeah, boy, have I. But
been a while though.
But you're a decent human being, so you're not going to make things weird, and you're going to be complimentary. But deep down, it was like, yeah, I don't like her. And then they break up, and you're like, oh boy, am I glad you.
Oh, to be perfectly honest, Justin, can I be selfish for 30 seconds?
100%.
Goes back to high school, and it was one of my good friends, and actually high school into college, I could say, and one of my good friends. I was at college; he was still here in the Portland area, and I didn't particularly maybe care for his significant other, because she took up the time we could spend together.
Yeah, it's a little jealousy.
Now, see that? No, granted, that's 18, 19-year-old Brenden.
Gotcha.
A little different, but I remember it well.
Well, then there's all sorts of reasons, right? But it happens where you're like, hey, this is my friend. This is who he's dating or sometimes married to. You're like, I'm just not a fan. But you keep it to yourself. Like, you don't want to upset the apple cart. And
exactly.
And then let's just say they break up and you can, boy, am I, and you got to be careful. There's a window. Dudes know this. Maybe females know this as well. I don't know. My wife will attest. I know nothing about females. But guys know, breakup happens. There's a 2-week buffer where you don't say anything because rebound possibility. There's break up and you go, hey, me and Jen broke up. It's like, thank God we hated her. And then we're back together. And it's like, whoa, we didn't quite
Good
mean
call.
that.
Yep.
So you got to wait a week. I get the feeling that when Seattle Seahawks fans, finally when the breakup happened, I don't know if they were fully invested in old Russell Wilson. Do you know what I mean? Where when he left, never really, it was great, won a Super Bowl. A lot of that was Legion of Boom. But there was a lot of drama surrounding that guy. And then when he left, it was like, he comes back, they boo him, they beat him on Monday Night Football. And while Geno Smith isn't better, there was still something about, there was a lot of drama, which was funny because a couple weeks ago, when we were talking to Brady Henderson of ESPN.com, who covers the Seahawks, I go, Russell Wilson's going to play for somebody. What about the Seahawks? And he's like, never say never, never. It's not going to happen because the front office and even the fan base, Griffey, it was like, yeah, this really stinks because really liked that guy. And obviously that's where Blazer fans are. I think most Blazer fans are, where not really happy the way it turned out. There's blame to go around. Don't need to do that today, but there's blame to go around. But man, it stinks. Whereas with Russell Wilson, I felt like it was, boy, you caused a lot of drama. All that being said, Tyson Alger joins the show coming up in an hour. Right now, though, let us get to Make or Miss.
It bounces off the crossbar, and it's good! Oh, my God! Oh, my goodness!
Oh, and
internationally, like the NBA crushes. Is this like, because from what I've understood, like in the movie industry, like they're not making any movies except for superhero movies anymore. Big giant epics, because there are no DVD sales. Everything goes to streaming. So you want as many people in theaters. So you got to think internationally. And internationally, the movies that sell are superhero movies. So that's why for the last 10 years, we got nothing but superhero movies. The NBA, like, with Giannis and Jokic and Embiid, they are crushing it overseas. So maybe that's why the Hornets can go for $4 billion and the Baltimore Orioles go for 1.8. But that was a shocker to me that they sold for 1.8. Now, getting back to it, yeah, maybe they'll get an owner that spends some money. But the other thing is in baseball, right?
A Baltimore native, so that's going to be kind of cool.
Okay, yeah.
Someone local. Yeah, someone local. I mean, wants to keep the Orioles. They just, they're going to stay in Camden Yards. And you know this, Justin, like, of all, like, the little, it's not Wrigley, it's not Yankee Stadium, but, like, of all the kind of unique ballparks in America, Camden Yards is kind of up there. Like,
I'd like to go to Camden Yards.
Too.
I'd like to go there, have some,
more so than, like, natural.
Have some crab cakes.
Oh, yeah. I think I've mentioned this before, but my sister works for Alaska Airlines, and last year she was in Baltimore a couple times, and she's like, oh, yeah, Adley's playing kind of a thing. And it was, she mentioned just that, Justin, that the crab cakes in Baltimore are quite good.
Crab cakes are good. Also, watch The Wire, though, and that's a different part of Baltimore altogether.
I've heard that's a pretty good show.
Wire's awesome.
Should I get
Wire's
into it?
awesome. Yeah,
Okay.
It is awesome. But, like,
I'm always looking for my next show.
But you got back to the, I think so. I think this is going to be hopefully good for Rutschman, because you get a guy that'll spend, but he can't spend recklessly. Right there.
I have two options here. As a Sherwoodian and an Oregon Stadian, Justin. Oregon Stadian and Sherwoodian.
Is it Sherwoodian?
Yeah.
Is that the proper terminology? Not a Sherwoodite?
Yeah, I think I think the better term is just to say Bowman, but I've heard Sherwoodian.
Right,
yeah, Sherwoodian.
Because, like, I'm a Winstonian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, Winstonian. But yeah, like, as for that, Justin, I've said forever, the path is there. He stays healthy. Adley Rutschman has all the ability to be the next Buster Posey. And maybe I am overvaluing him a little bit. That's fine. I love him. But that all being said, I told you this about a year ago. Either Baltimore needed to have an owner that was going to commit to winning, which looks like maybe they do.
They seem to.
Or he needs to go to a place like the Yankees where he can be showered with gifts. Like, my biggest thing's like a guy like Joe Mauer, right? Just made the Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken.
He did just make the Hall of Fame, yes. First ballot.
Entire career tore all the way in Minnesota.
Yep.
I don't think he ever even made the postseason.
Never. He made the postseason,
Okay.
Never made the World Series.
See, and he's one of the greatest catchers of all time.
One of the greatest of all time.
And
But
how many people know about him?
But here's the thing. Going back to what we were talking about in hour number one, he's the legend forever in Minnesota. Now,
does he own Minneapolis, you think?
From a baseball perspective,
Yeah.
I'm 100% certain. Because, no Timberwolf.
Timberwolf. It's not Rudy Gobert?
No, like, Viking. Like, it's Joe
Was
Mauer.
it bad? Was it hard feelings when KG left?
I think maybe
most people,
I was a little. I don't know. I think most people kind of understood at that particular point. Also, that was like they had a bad owner.
Not a lot of football success with the Vikings, right? I mean, they had no Super Bowls, obviously.
But yeah, like you look at a guy like Joe Mauer, where what's a better career? Like Joe Mauer, who stayed in one spot, is a Hall of Famer, is a Minnesota Twins legend. Never take it away. Or who would be a good example of, like, I don't know, somebody that kind of hopped around and went from team to team and ultimately got on with, like, A-Rod?
Without
A-Rod, like left Seattle, left Texas, went to New York, right? Now, again, there's the problem of the performance-enhancing drug things with A-Rod. But, like, he won his World Series.
But okay, let me ask you this. If Griffey had never left Seattle, where is that? Because we've said forever, right now the Seahawks got a pretty big stranglehold in the city of Seattle. Pete Carroll's probably the greatest Seattle coach of all time.
That's no doubt.
Russell Wilson's probably, no.
It's
Russell Wilson's probably number 2 because I think Gary Payton's the best.
No, Griffey's still number 1.
Griffey's
still number 1 of all time.
I give Gary Payton the nod over Russell Wilson, barely.
It wouldn't have been that way 2 years ago.
But yes,
since then,
that's my
obviously
bias,
some things have changed.
My bias coming out. But yeah, Hall of Fame point guard, Justin. But yeah, that's interesting because immediately I thought of a guy like Joe Mauer. That is a comp for Adley Rutschman career-wise.
Yeah, because like a Joe Mauer or like a Mike Trout, right?
Yes.
Guys that are incredibly good, stay in one particular spot, but never have the postseason success. And I don't know. It's a tough one, right? Would you rather be like, Johnny Damon, right? Johnny Damon was an A, and then he was a Red Sox, and he was a Yankee, and bounced around. Would you rather be Johnny Damon, where you had chances at World Series, or would you rather be Joe Mauer? I don't know.
That's good.
I think I'd rather be a legend.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I would.
Would you rather be a legend but never win a championship, a legend in a city but never win a championship, or win a championship and lose legendary status?
Good question.
It's interesting in particular today, right? Because of things that are maybe going on tonight.
Right. Let's look at both sides of the baseball equation, Justin. You just broke down, and maybe he's kind of an enigma, and anyone was going to pay him, and he's going to be great wherever. But Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, there is zero reason that team should not have been competing for titles every year with those two guys leading the way.
Yeah, but it also goes to show, building a baseball team,
sure,
two guys are nice, but you need a lot more.
Shohei chose to leave, but Mike Trout, for instance, Justin, I had to look it up just to confirm. Mike Trout is under contract with the A's until 2031. Do you think the A's are going to put him in a position to win before then?
You mean the Angels?
Or Angels, sorry. Yes.
Dude, if Mike Trout went to the A's, that'd be breaking news. That should have made the update.
Yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah, hey, if Las Vegas A's, you never know. But you know what I mean? Mike Trout, I think, to your extent, Justin, has maybe come to the realization, I'm going to make $40 million a year to play for the Angels, but we're probably not going to win.
It is interesting. I was just looking at Adley Rutschman's deal. He's not due for free agency until 2028. 2028.
It's a long time. I'm not a fan of arbitration and all the year. Keep it simple with me, Justin.
Could you imagine? Now, do you know what arbitration is?
Yes.
Because I don't know why. Could you imagine
the NBA and arbitration?
Well, no. In our business, say you want to, or any of your business out there, and it's I would like a raise. They're we are going to arbitration. So you are going to sit at one side of the table. The company you work for and will continue to work for is going to sit at the other end of the table. There's going to be a mediator in the middle. And after you are done saying why you believe you need to be paid more money, they are going to say why you shouldn't. And then afterwards, we're going to go and pretend everything's just fine. That happens in baseball every single year. Every single year, players sit down and GMs and owners are on the other side going you only did this and you didn't do this and we needed you this and you weren't there. And this other guy is way better than you. And it's I'm going to still play for this team? What a mess.
Baseball's weird,
I couldn't even imagine what it must be like.
I understand why it is the way that it is. To an extent, because of the minor league, the time that guys will spend sometimes 3-4 years at the minor league level. But I think of The Office, right? What did Michael Scott tell Dwight early?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, right? And then added the stupid on top of it. And it's that's why I like the NBA, Justin. It's really easy.
He told me don't be an idiot.
And
from that day forward, I thought, would an idiot do it? And if it is yes, I'd do the opposite.
It would change my life. But the NBA, that's why I like the NBA and the NFL. It is unbelievably simple. Rookie contracts, 4 years. There's an option for the 5th, maybe restricted, yada, yada, but that's it. You don't like who you're drafted, Justin? In 4 years, you can move on. That is it. So, it's baseball's a little different.
Well, and this is, again, it's the other part of Moneyball that they don't talk about, which is you want to draft a guy like Adley Rutschman, because I think it's a 7-year deal initially, and every year you spend in the minor leagues, that's off of your deal. And like Adley Rutschman's not making $1 million. He's not. He is not making $1 million.
Severely underpaid
this year. Now he's arbitration eligible, and
see that's why
if this new owner was smart, they would renegotiate, give him an extension, and lock him up for the next 8 because he's 25 years old.
The other quote, Justin, that was attached to that story that I thought was really eye-opening was, it was a quote from the owner that is selling now, like a couple months ago, when he said, "I couldn't imagine giving 250 million to players. That's ridiculous."
Yeah.
And you're like,
well, good. Hopefully you like third place.
You're like, ooh, Justin, you gotta spend money to make money, what I heard.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, but I will take 1.8 billion into my bank account. All right. Before we wrap up hour number 2, I want to tell you about the good folks at DeBella. That's right, home improvement. And not only can it make your house look better, but it can save you money. That's right. You can save up to 30% on energy bills. So if you are looking to improve your home, roofing, windows, siding, even bath renovations, DeBella is who you need to call because they've got over 15,000 5-star reviews on Google. You could be the next 5-star review for them. Plus, with their excellent work comes an excellent way to pay. Not until 2025. Yeah, you heard me right. Right now, with DeBella, 0 down, no payments until 2025 on approved credit for roofing, siding, windows, bath renovations. And we all went through the brutal weather stretch a couple of weeks ago. How'd your roof hold All right, wrapping up hour number one. And at the turn of the calendar, when it became 2024, I was like, we got to change up some stuff. Some segments on the particular program, they just weren't hitting the way that I wanted them to, and probably stuck with them a little bit too long. So we kept the ones that were working. Obviously, we still do Get Off My Lawn on Tuesdays. That's going to stay for a while because I ain't going to stop being grumpy. We still make our hot takes each and every Friday, but we got rid of an awful lot of stuff that just wasn't working. So we're gonna spitball some stuff here because I am on the internet too much. I'll admit it. I'm on the internet too much. I spend too much time on my phone. I spend too much time scrolling. Idle hands are the devil's playground is what some people say. Or an idle mind, I believe, is the devil's playground. Well, it might. I got too much time on my hands. Maybe I need to find a better hobby. I don't know. But I spend too much time on the internet, and I see a lot of stuff. Some of it I find very interesting, but I don't have anybody to talk about it with because I get home, and my wife's like, I don't care what you saw on the internet. So, new segment right now. There's no intro to it. There's no music to it, but we're just going to call it Stuff I Found on the Internet, and we're going to talk about it. I have never heard of this show. Brenden, you said you have. The show is called Reacher. You've heard of the show Reacher, correct?
I have heard of it, haven't watched it. Believe it's on Prime.
Okay. So there is an actor. I believe he's the lead. His name is Alan Ritchson. Have you heard of Alan Ritchson?
Yeah, I have.
He's in the Hunger Games. Oh, I love the Hunger Games. You
Never got into the Hunger Games.
Dude!
Yeah, never got into the Hunger
Katniss
Games.
Everdeen?
Yeah, never
Submit
got it.
for your pleasure?
Not against it, though. Just would need like anything else, Justin. You know I'm crushing a lot of TV I haven't watched.
And this dude was in a show called Blue Mountain State, which was kind of a cult classic.
I remember that. You bet.
And is currently in the show Reacher, which I think is off of Jack Reacher. But yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. He was on a show talking about, this is where I found it, stuff I found on the internet, because my algorithm is full of health and nutrition, and this dude is a big dude. He said on this particular podcast he weighs about 240 pounds, and to maintain, not to bulk, but to maintain, he claims, Brenden, he ate 4,000 calories a day. 4,000. Now, I don't precisely, but I have a fairly good idea of the amount of caloric intake that I have each and every day. I plan my meals around said caloric intake, and I'm a smidge north of 2,000. It's the amount of working out and weightlifting and stuff. So I'm a smidge north of 2,000. How many calories a day do you think you could eat for like a week? For like, you got to do it for a week. Not in one day. In one sitting, I think anybody could kind of gorge themselves a little bit, and you'd be a little bit uncomfortable. But this dude eats 4,000 calories a day. A day. Now, for context, now I don't think he's eating.
How many calories could I fill with sweets?
Probably a lot.
Because, you, Justin, I'm just going to say, a package of those delicious Girl Scout cookie shortbreads, probably like 250 calories for the whole sleeve, man. So
I think it might be north of that.
Okay, you're probably, let's check.
I think it might be north of that. All right, so, well, maybe not. According to the internet, which has never lied to me before, according to the internet, a quarter pounder with cheese is about 400 calories. Quarter pounder with cheese. That's like, so 4,000 calories would be like eating 10 quarter pounders a day.
I learned that 5 Girl Scout cookies about 200 calories. So, yeah, I could.
So you could do it just off of cookies.
I'm just thinking, like, if I ate normally and then I always have my sweet tooth, like, I have room in my stomach for sweets, Justin. I will eat dinner, be full, be like, oh, there's room for dessert.
What is the most, like, because I've said, for me, it's chips. I can't have chips around. I'm full, I eat chips. I am not hungry, I eat chips.
Yeah.
Chips are in my general reach. I shall eat chips. Mexican food play, Carlita's down in the Pearl, which I love. It's my spot. We have had to go to the Pearl, but please stop bringing chips. Because I will not, stop bringing, because they're very good. They come by and they go, like, would you like more chips? Or sometimes they don't even ask. And then I'm like, you got to stop bringing them. Because I will not stop eating the chips
That's like
in front of me. What is your, like, it's not weakness, but it's like you cannot turn it down. Like you have to physically put it out.
Totally. It's a couple different, like, whether it's Pepperidge Farm or like Girl Scout. Like I like shortbread cookies. So like
you like the shortbread cookies,
me, like,
man.
Like the other day, Justin, I was actually kind of embarrassed. Like Pepperidge Farm, they make the Milano cookies and many others.
Yeah.
They make shortbread cookies that are absolutely delicious. I think there's 12 in a package. It was probably done within 2 days. Like it's just like because
is there?
because I'll be like, there's one.
But that's at least 2 days. Like, but I think like you put the Thin Mints in front of me, like without control. Like I could eat a whole thing until they're gone, or like the chips at the table at the Mexican food place. Like I'm gonna eat them until they're gone.
Food for me would be like a bowl of peanuts. I love good
dry roasted peanuts.
Any kind of peanut. Like I like boiled peanuts. I like peanuts. I love peanuts. Like they are my favorite nut. That's not a hazelnut.
Even though it's technically a legume.
Oh, so hazelnut then, or is that a legume?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay, because like Oregon's a hazelnut place.
Filberts, Filberts.
Filberts
is what we call them here.
So I ride for those.
Yeah.
It's probably like a Cheeto.
Were you in the Nutella generation? I was just a little bit too old. But I remember like the generation, like the elder millennials, like Nutella was
I like it.
the thing.
Yeah, I like it. I don't love it. I can't actually tell you the last time. Like it's in our house, but I can't tell you the last time I put it on something. But I would if I needed like a quick little like piece of protein on toast before I was leaving or something.
I am the last of the Gen Xers. Right, I'm born in the 70s. Right, I'm the last of the Gen Xers. So the elder millennials that came behind me, like that's the Nutella crew. Because I remember not quite even understanding what it was, and when I went to like college at like Western Oregon, they had to put out like a thing, like you know how at Local Boys they have signs like "Do not steal the sauce."
They do. Like
please don't, and you shouldn't steal the sauce. But like they had to put up signs like please stop stealing the Nutella, like because they would have like at shout out to Western Oregon Valset's Dining Hall, and they would have like a little bagel station, right? Cut your bagel, put it in the toaster, and they would have peanut butter, and they would have cream cheese, and the Nutella, and there would be a sign that was like, please stop stealing the Nutella, because it would just go there and it would jack it. But I was like, I don't get it. The hazel, like, I don't get the Nutella, but. So it's a bowl of peanuts, huh?
Peanuts, Cheetos, anything salty and salty, and then you get the sweet, man. If you get a salty and a sweet snack in front of me, I maybe not know when to stop.
But yeah, dude, Alan Richson, 4,000 calories. That 10 quarter pounders with cheese.
Does that still compare to like Michael Phelps when he did like his 16,000 calories?
He's an Olympic athlete trying to win gold medals. This guy's just trying to look good on Jack Reacher.
Hey, I haven't watched the show. Maybe he's running a lot, Justin.
He's jacked, though.
Oh, well,
like, he says he's like 240 pounds. But, like, could you just imagine, like, you got to eat? For you, I would imagine, because you think you get 2,000 in a day?
Oh, yeah.
I get 2,000 in, and it's pushing it. But
I think it's helped. Justin,
I also don't need a lot of carbs.
It's aided by, again, doesn't regular Coke have calories?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, sorry. I would hope that's assumed at this point.
You never know.
But it's fair. We don't need anyone calling Justin. What's your producer doing this morning?
All right, hour number 3 with Tyson Alger. We also got the RCM mailbag. Dame's return, coaching salaries, Seahawks still without a coach. That's all next, 620 Rip City Radio.
what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The day has arrived, and so has Damian Lillard. He is in town as the Milwaukee Bucks will be taking on your Portland Trailblazers. 7 o'clock tip time at Moda Center. We have wall-to-wall coverage beginning at 4:30 right here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. NFL news. Seattle Seahawks and Washington Commanders potential coaching target, Ben Johnson has announced, I'm going to be a head coach. I'm going to stay in Detroit and become a coordinator. Seattle and Washington, the only two teams now in the NFL left without a head coach. MLB news, the Baltimore Orioles are expected to be sold for $1.8 billion. Coming up in 20 minutes, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joins the big show. The RCM Mailbag Dames return. And had the Seahawks entered the can't hardly wait portion of the coaching search? What am I talking about? Well, we dive in right now. 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, welcome back to Rip City Mornings. Obviously, the big story of the day is Damian Lillard's return. Our coverage begins at 4:30. Of course, Rip City Drive is going to be getting underway at 3 o'clock. Dame was out at the Adidas campus yesterday, coming back home. Friend of the program, Aaron Fentress, who's going to be on the show tomorrow to kind of recap everything that's going to be going on at Moda Center tonight. We're going to talk to Fentress coming up on the show tomorrow. And he wrote a whole, he went to Denver to catch up with Dame before they swung by here. And so Fentress had a terrific article in the Oregonian at OregonLive.com. A lot of layers to this. A lot of layers. This is not the cut and dry player gets disgruntled, acts selfish, requests trade, demands trade. There's a lot of layers with regard to loyalty. What does loyalty mean? Did the Blazers force Dame's hand? Should Dame have continued to go with the status quo? Did the Blazers truly want him to stick around? That's a question I wish I could answer. You know what I mean? If I could answer, if I could get the sodium pentothal, which I don't know, is that a real thing or is that a made up movie thing? I know sodium pentothal is a real thing, but does it actually make you tell the truth or does it just make you a little loopy? But if there was such a thing as actual truth serum where you got Joe Cronin and Burt Cold in a room and they had
I'm willing to bet, Justin.
Like Liar, Liar. You a big fan of Liar, Liar? The Jim Carrey movie?
Yeah, can't say I've seen it more than maybe just once.
Interesting.
Yeah, but no, to your point, Justin, I don't think even in the most James Bondian kind of mindset, I think we would know if the world had a truth serum.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe I'm wrong.
Let's see. Sodium pentothal, ultra short acting depressant of the central nervous system. Can sodium pentothal be used as, thank you, Google. What does truth serum mean? It's most commonly barbiturates like sodium pentothal to extract truthful statements from past experiences. So I guess it kind of works. It's like a lie detector test, right?
That's true, right?
It kind of works, but it kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of science on the lie detector tests. They don't work. Hey, can we get you a polygraph? No. I watch Dateline a lot. I know what you're trying to do. Anyways, if I could go back and just get one question, it would I would want to know, was Joe Cronin truly planning? Was he truly planning on building a team? And Bert and Jody and everybody else who was involved, because obviously when you're writing the checks, that's who you answer to. I would want, were you truly planning around Dame? They said they were, didn't feel like they were. That's the question when I talk about the layers in all of this, right? Because part of me is yeah, Dame, you said you were loyal, but you asked out. But then the other part of it is, Did the Blazers really have him in mind when they were drafting Shaden, drafting Scoot, making the moves, tanking for the 2 years, playing for ping pong balls, all that stuff, right? When they were cutting salary and getting rid of CJ and, getting rid of Josh Hart and getting rid of Norman Powell and all of these guys, what was really the plan? That would be Jeannie pops out, says, Justin, you get one question with the Blazers ownership, governorship, Blazers front office. You get one, because the whole deal with genies. Like, a genie pops out, you go, I wish for more wishes. And I know in Aladdin they said you can't do it, but I figure I can get around that loophole, right?
See, even Aladdin did. Remember, he didn't wish to be saved from under the sea, Justin. The genie just did that on his own.
Yeah.
But you never know.
There's Ixnay on the wishing for more wishes. It's I'm going to wish for more wishes.
Exactly.
Right? That's what you first thing you do. Everybody knows that trick. But if they we had one specific genie who was you get one question and it's only to Joe Cronin. What would it be? And he's got to tell the truth. I'd be like, were you really planning on building around Dame? Because I don't know if we're ever going to fully know that answer. But regardless, he's not anymore. Dame's gone, but he's back tonight. So there's going to be obviously a ton of stuff going on there. Now, real quick, because we got Tyson Alger coming up in about 15 minutes. I want to talk about the Seahawks real quick. All right, maybe, Brenden, you have not seen Liar Liar. This also is a movie that was big when I was a senior in high school. So you were at daycare. Did you ever see the movie, though, Can't Hardly Wait? Are you aware of the movie Can't Hardly? It's a terrific movie. It's very 90s, but doesn't quite hold up, but it's a great movie. And it's one of those like American Pie, like She's All That. It's hey, the high school kids are about to go to college and they're dealing with the stuff that comes with that.
Yeah, solid cast.
It's a great movie. Now, part of the plot of Can't Hardly Wait is that the popular dudes are all going to break up with their girlfriends so that they can have a summer of fun before they go off to college, right? And then they all sit there and we're all doing it, right? So we're all in on this. We're all breaking up with our girlfriends so we can go and have her. And then the one guy goes and he breaks up with Amanda. That was Jennifer Love Hewitt. He breaks up with Amanda and then he comes back and his boys are like, what, guys, what? And they're like, well, we got concert tickets and we're going to go so we didn't do it. We didn't break. And so the reason I bring that up, and so felt like a good idea at the time, hey, let's break up and I'm going to be able to choose from anything I want, right? And then it turns out, should have never broken up. The thing you thought you had, not there. And now you're kind of in an interesting position because it's what they don't tell you about when you break up or have significant relationships fall apart is now you put yourself in a pool to be judged by others. Is that where the Seahawks are right now? I bring it up because at the time, it felt like, all right, the Pete Carroll regime it's done some great things. It's the greatest run in Seahawks history, by the way. It's not even particularly close. They made the playoffs last year. They had a winning record this year. They were, right down to the wire, needed help, didn't get it. Had some bad losses, had some fun wins, but it didn't quite feel like it was completely falling apart. And I wonder if the Seahawks maybe made a rash decision in firing Pete Carroll and now sitting out there thinking that, yeah, we are going to be the belle of the ball. What? So the Chargers got Jim Harbaugh? And all these other, the Titans, that was fast. Okay, they've got their the Atlanta Falcons, they got their guy. They got Raheem Morris. Oh, they didn't go Bill Belichick. Interesting.
Speaking of which, you see his hire yesterday? I don't know if you caught that.
No.
Former Washington head coach Jimmy Lake is now the Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator. And it was kind of interesting as the
That's
Falcons.
a nice one. Guy can coach defense.
Well, it was kind of interesting because the
Didn't
Falcons
do very well recruiting.
They
but
tweeted out his whole resume and said the Lake effect. And I wanted so badly to quote tweet and be like, what was his effect in Seattle as head coach? Oh,
head coach not good. Defensive coordinator incredibly good.
solid, but
Incredibly
head
good.
coach real bad. Look it up, kids.
But I wonder, like, Seahawks are just kind of sitting out there, and it's like, did they plan on it going this long? Did they maybe have their eyes set? Like,
I think they were interested in Ben Johnson, obviously. Mike McDonald, I was checking up our good friend program. We might catch up with Brady Henderson at some
because
point.
if it was Dan Quinn,
Probably would have happened already.
would have happened already.
I think.
Like,
It sounds
I
like
don't-
from Brady's
I
Twitter
don't
that things
think
are,
I know.
that
Like, if
things
it
are
was gonna
going
be,
slow.
but that's what I'm saying is like, it felt like, and again, we made this all up. Nobody said it's going to be Dan Quinn, but it felt like, hey, move Pete Carroll to the front office, bring in his old defensive coordinator that had the Legion of Boom, keep John Schneider in the spot, boom, boom, boom. Now it's like,
Oops.
uh-oh. Should I have taken that homecoming date when I had the chance? But instead now I'm looking around and like the Falcons have got a homecoming date and the Titans have got a homecoming date. And like, you know, dance is in a week and a half. Like, I don't know. And then this Ben Johnson thing is kind of fascinating to me. Because on one hand, it's like, why would you ever take your name out of the running if you are with a chance to be a head coach? It's a bit of a gamble, right? I talk about it with Caleb Williams. The idea that like, I'm not going to go in the draft because I don't like who's going to be picking number one. Well, you know what? Good players, franchise players change franchises, and elite level coaches change cultures. You saw that in Detroit. You saw that in Houston. Heck, you saw it in Seattle with Pete Carroll a dozen years ago. Elite coaches change the culture. So to do my Brian Windhorst, Ben Johnson goes back to Detroit. Now, why would he do that? Two reasons, in my opinion. Either A, he learned he wasn't going to get the job and broke up with them before they could break. I didn't get turned down. I took my name out of the running. That's A, possibility. Or B, the NFL world is a smaller world than you think. Everybody talks. Everybody. Coaches, agents, GMs, front office staff, scouting personnel, everybody talks. Now, I can understand if Ben Johnson said, you know what, I do not want to go to the Commanders. That is, you just look at their, now they got a new owner, and they got a new GM, and they may have a new name coming up, and they may have a new stadium. But right now, that's still a toxic place, it feels like. Maybe they're coming out of it, don't know. But it was a tough spot. But do you think, like, word is out, like, hey, yeah, I don't know if Seattle's the spot you want to go to. I don't think that's it, but I don't know if you have a chance to be a head coach in the NFL, why would he do that? Boy, I don't know. Here's what I do know. Tyson Alger, who's a friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, he joins us next on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Blazers back in action tonight. It's a big one. It's a big one. Obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks come to town, but it's more than just that. Damian Lillard makes his return back at the Moda Center. 7 o'clock tip time, and as I mentioned before, here on 620 Rip City Radio, we have got wall-to-wall coverage beginning at 4:30, but obviously Rip City Drive gets underway at 3, so we have got all the coverage on Damian Lillard's return to Moda Center and all the emotions that come along with it. I have an emotion right now, and it is joy and glee to be able to talk to my good friend from the I-5 corridor, Tyson Alger, back on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How we doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Now, I don't want to bring up these memories because it seems cruel, but you, as a lifelong Mariner fan, have a unique perspective of what Blazer fans are maybe going to be dealing with tonight, because as you have mentioned on this show, and because you and I are friends, I know this, you had a Ken Griffey Jr. themed birthday party growing up, only to have Ken Griffey Jr. traded that day. And then having to go through all the emotions of, now he really plays for the Reds now? And, like, that's a whole thing. And then at some point, Griffey, through interleague play and scheduling, made his way back to then Safeco Field, now T-Mobile Park. What was that, as obviously a younger fan, but what was that like? And, like, can maybe you give some advice to the Blazer fans that are maybe facing a lot of emotion on what's going to be happening tonight at Moda Center?
You know, the reason I've been doing this radio show for 3 years now is I've been awake for about a minute and 35 seconds, and we're already bringing up repressed birthday memories. So
I'm sorry. I said I didn't want to do it, but as a broadcast journalist, I have to.
No, I appreciate that, and I always, expect you to ask the tough questions. Ken Griffey Jr. has to be traded on my 10th birthday, and this was somebody who had about 6 Ken Griffey Jr. posters in his bedroom, signed baseball, the mitt with, the version of him. And yeah, it was.
Did you
have
the Riptide? Did you have Riptide?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yes,
I had
that was so
everything.
awesome.
It was tough, but what it did for me as a younger fan at the time is, the Mariners got really good, so it was kind of okay. Like in the immediacy, and Griffey was in a different league, and so you could kind of compartmentalize it a little bit. The Mariners hadn't had a lot of success before that, so it was kind of cool. But then, he just wasn't as good with Cincinnati, and that kind of made it okay. It was just like he had year after year after year after injury, and by the time he finally came back to Safeco, and I think that was 2007 when the Reds came back to play the Mariners, my dad and I went to that series, and it was one of the coolest sporting events I've ever been to. Not only did Griffey get like a standing ovation, and it was kind of like a big kind of emotional dump, but he also, I think he had 3 home runs in that series, and it was just like a really cool thing. But to me, that feels a little bit different than the Lillard situation, because at this point, Lillard's only been gone for 6 months. So like his next chapter of his story has barely been told at this point. By the time Griffey came back to Seattle, it was already very apparent that his best days were in Seattle. And I know things aren't going great for Milwaukee right now. They just fired their coach, but I think there's still very much a belief that things can work with Lillard and Giannis, and maybe that ends up being like the bigger story of his larger story. So I think, I think it'll be an interesting one. It's very apparent that Lillard's been kind of trying to lay the groundwork for a smooth landing. The fact that he was out in the community yesterday doing the stuff with Adidas, the quotes he's had of saying, it's not like he really wanted this to end. I think it'll be a pretty sweet moment, but it's just it doesn't quite feel final yet, because we don't know how good he's going to be with Milwaukee in the long term.
Yeah, it is interesting. We've been talking about it today. There's a lot of layers to this, right? Because You mentioned kind of Griffey coming back, and then there was the flip side of it, as Mariner fans ultimately know, and that's when A-Rod came back. And when A-Rod came back, because he went in the division, and he said it's not about the money while signing a $262 million contract, and then everybody had the monopoly money that was flying around Safeco and everything else. Obviously, that was a bit different. This one is going to be a massive love fest, but, you kind of said it there, Tyson. So many kind of layers to this, because usually in the NBA, player gets disgruntled, he requests trade, team has to cave, it's player empowerment era, and it was almost like the Blazers last summer and Dame last summer, like neither really wanted to do it. Somebody felt like they had to do it, and then it was a hesitancy, and now he's coming back, and it's just so many different layers to this than your typical player requested a trade and now coming back.
Yeah, and it's just again with it being so soon from when it happened too. Like it's like he's coming back to a Portland that's still very much feeling the void of his absence. Mm-hmm. Who's the star in Portland? I mean, even as like a city right now, like Portland's always kind of been a town where it's the best player on the Blazers is kind of like, that the city's era's biggest star. And then, for 8 or 9 years it was Damian Lillard. Before that, for a couple of years, it was LaMarcus Aldridge. And then you had the Brenden Roy years. Like, Lillard comes back now, and, I still wouldn't argue with the package that they got for him with, the draft picks and taking Scoot Henderson, I think, was the right choice. But, we haven't seen any of that quite develop yet to a point where, you see the future without Dame. And so Dame's coming back, and it's still very much, where's this franchise at? And we don't have the answers for that right now.
It is weird. You're right. I didn't even think about it. This is why we bring Tyson Alger on for multiple different reasons, but he brings fantastic topics from his big brain that also runs the I-5 corridor. Like the championship belt of Portland. Like I remember, like when the Hulkster lost to the Ultimate Warrior, that Hulk Hogan went away to go. Well, one was a steroid trial, but two, like he went away to do, to be part of the family and to do really bad movies. And there was a while there where it's like, all right, who's our champion? And it's the Ultimate Warrior, and that's not working out. And it's like $1 Million Man in there. You're right. I think right now Anthony Simons is kind of that guy. Doesn't quite have the same star power as Dame for a lot of different reasons, but yeah, it's like a weird heavyweight championship void era here in the city of Portland.
And the thing about Simons too is like Simons is undeniably great. Watching him kind of blossom during his 5 years here has been spectacular, and to see him kind of really step up as the guy who accumulates all of the points on the team in Dame's absence has been great. But I think the tough thing with him though too is just, again, looking at this roster and wondering, like, what does this team look like when it's eventually successful? Like, I don't know if Simons is still there for that part. And so it's kind of hard to kind of openly embrace Simons as the star of the team when you're supposed to be waiting for that to be Scoot Henderson when the team's struggling and, you kind of have all these other factors. It's just kind of like a little purgatory time in Portland when it comes to stardom right now.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's talk some college football. Big news since last time you came on the show. And I'll be honest, Tyson, I'm torn. I'm torn. But Oregon gets a huge transfer portal addition to their roster. Jabbar Muhammad from Washington really put the clamps on Oregon in those 2 games last year. Well, he now brings his talents down I-5, and probably not the I-5 corridor that you thought of when you named your website that, but the fact that now potentially there is a mass exodus going on in Washington, and Oregon is reaping those benefits. What a weird time. You know what I mean? What a weird time where I understand rivalries mean more to the fans than to the players, especially players who aren't from here. But the reason why I'm torn, Tyson, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for a future in the next 5 to 10 years of Oregon and Washington just swapping players. I don't know if I'm ready for that because there's going to happen the opposite way, and people are going to freak out down here.
Oh, it's already happened the opposite way. It was just a couple of years ago where the Ducks raided a couple defensive linemen from the Huskies, and then those guys got to watch their former team win the national championship. Yeah. So, it's not necessarily the best cause and effect so far for the Ducks, but as you said, it's going to keep happening, especially as like they're the two, excuse me, as there's going to be the 2 regional teams in the Big Ten, there's going to be some kids that want to stick within the conference that don't want to have to move across the country. It's going to make sense to just take the bus 3 hours north or south and hop onto a different team. But yeah, with Jabbar, it's a huge pickup for the Ducks just because they're losing Kyrie Jackson. Their secondary was something that desperately needed some starters infused into it. And Jabbar, I think, was second in the nation in pass breakups last year, played a lot of reps for them. So yeah, that's great for the Ducks. But I'm also not looking forward to like how this goes over within your own household moving forward.
I was told not happy about it, but I at least have someone to cheer for. That's what I was told because while my lovely wife is a proud Washington Husky alum, she is also a fantastic wife and travels to Eugene on multiple Saturdays and sits and watch me act like a fool in Autzen Stadium and do shout and all that stuff while she has to, not she has to, but she chooses to. So now she's got a rooting interest at least, which is interesting because, you know, Tyson, when you boil this all down, right, Seinfeld taught us, right, we're rooting for laundry. You know what I mean? We're rooting for laundry and we're rooting for colors. But, like, then I look at, producer Brendan's generation where, like, there's no loyalty. There's just, hey, player goes here, player goes there. I follow the player. Like, I don't want to say rivalries are ever going to die because there's a lot with it. But, man, it is going to be fascinating to see what happens in college football. Kind of like what we see in the NFL where just, no, I'm a fan of this particular player, not necessarily this particular team.
Yeah, well, and I think that might kind of proliferate too once we get into like the super conferences where there's only like a set number of like elite teams, and every player on those teams is going to be 4- and 5-star players. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty easy to identify some players. I find myself in an interesting spot in terms of that sort of fandom because like I grew up a lifelong baseball fan, and so obviously like I don't watch other games other than the Mariners. Like that's the laundry that I root for. Like that's the team I'm loyal for. You'll never catch me. But I was kind of a late NBA fan. I didn't start becoming an NBA fan until like 2012, 2013, and being from Alaska there and not having a home base, like I found myself like identifying more with players. Like I'm going to say this quietly, but like I really like LeBron James, and I've watched primarily whatever team he's playing on, like as he's gone throughout his career, and maybe that's me being, in the mid-millennial sort of fan these days. Yeah. But yeah, it's just different, and I'm not proud of it. Like I wasn't happy to say that right there, but it's just how it is.
All right, there is an interesting kind of Alaska basketball connection because, I still remember the Great Alaska Shootout being a massive, massive deal. It was Trajan Langdon, I believe he was in Alaska.
Yes, sir.
Carlos Boozer, is he your guy? Is he like we put up the billboard of our hometown boy done good?
No. Like Palmer has a big, home of Tommy Moe, silver medalist at the 1992 downhill Olympic skiing games. Carlos Boozer is kind of like adjacent Alaska. That's down in Juneau. That's closer to British Columbia than it is to 90% of the real population. But if he wants to claim us, just like don't do the hair thing like he did.
Yeah.
Just let it go, man.
The paint on hair was a tough look for Carlos Boozer. Tommy Moe, home of Tommy Moe. Yes, Winston, by the way, still no Polamalu billboard. Just throwing it out there. Just says, welcome to Winston. About 5,000 people. Enjoy the wildlife safari, which is awesome, by the way. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Speaking of like kind of things kind of sinking in, and they may ultimately meet up again in March, but it was an interesting thing going on at Matthew Knight Arena this weekend with Arizona, and boy, that Love dude was insane. But I remember years and years and years of like Arizona is always was the measuring stick, and when Ernie Kent got things going in the late 90s and the early 2000s for Oregon basketball, it was like, can they catch Arizona? And then even with Dana Altman, it was like, yeah, when they drubbed Arizona, back in, 2017 or in 2016, right? That was the measuring stick. And to think that now Oregon and Arizona, not going to be in the same conference. I know we're obsessed with football. I am obsessed with football, but there are the conference realignment kind of collateral damage are games like that, and it was just kind of weird thinking like, yeah, that's the last time Arizona's going to come up to Eugene as a conference opponent. Felt kind of weird.
Yeah, Arizona has never been a game on the schedule that fans have been indifferent about. Like it's always either been like this team's going to come and kick Oregon's butt, during some of the the years as they're getting going, or it's like this is going to be the game that tells us just how good this team is. And you can look through the history of top 10 matchups between teams. You can look at some of the tough games the Ducks went down and played at McHale. You can just some of the best atmospheres in Matthew Knight Arena history have been between Arizona and UCLA. And while the Ducks keep UCLA moving into the next conference, I'm personally really bummed to be losing this one. I've very much enjoyed kind of the extra buzz that gets in the stadium when the Ducks are playing the Wildcats, and especially kind of those Dana Altman, Sean Miller years where they were going back and forth at each other. The DeAndre Ayton FBI game might be one of the most bizarre things that I've ever covered back in 2007, 2008. And so, we've kind of made a big deal about all these lost rivalries that are happening with football. I mean, over on the corridor, we did a whole series about it. But yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of history and tradition with basketball, and it's certainly, there's certain teams in the conference where there's just not much pizzazz when you play them, but Arizona's always been appointment viewing, and I think that's one of the rivalries that the Ducks will certainly miss going into their new era.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Also, by the way, as someone who worked at one summer in minor league baseball, event staff, tough loss, tough L to take for the Oregon marketing team after a brutal injury, bringing out the football team. Nothing else you could do in that situation. I very much remember running out to do the big boxing glove promo at Eugene Emeralds games as manager is getting ejected. So, again, feel for those guys. Not much you could have done. Tough look, though. It's tough L.
Yeah, I think two things can be equal there. I think that can be a tough look, and I can also think that it wasn't the most egregious mistake that Oregon's ever made in its history. I think when you're putting those things together, especially when you're scheduling an appearance with 100 football players, you kind of have to go by the clock. And unfortunately, those two things happen to overlap with each other. And then, unfortunately for Keyshawn, it looks like his season's over. But yeah, I was kind of feeling for everyone in that situation because it was a perfect example of the worst timing ever.
Pat Murphy, who I believe now is the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers. Pat Murphy, formerly of Arizona State, was the Eugene Emeralds manager. And I come running on the field, Tyson, to introduce the big boxing glove promo. And the place is going bananas. And I'm like, man, they really love me. This boxing glove thing is really catching on. And then to turn around and watch him arguing a first base out call, getting tossed out of the game. And now we're going to do the big boxing match. That was, like I said, I've been there. And it's a tough spot.
Yeah, but for those few seconds when you thought they were cheering for you, you still have that.
I'll always have it.
It's like Reggie Bush's Heisman, he still has those memories.
He was there at the club, held it up, picture was taken. Now, who knows where it's at today. All right, one last thing, because again, Tyson, let's do a little brainstorming here. News broke yesterday, Portland Diamond Project, focusing back to the Beaverton area with the Red Tail Golf. You threw it out on X about traffic. Traffic's going to be a thing. Anybody that's ever driven around that particular part of town. So, what do we think of can we just extend the tram from OHSU? And I looked at the map. It kind of is on the way. It might be a while, but what do you think? Just extend the tram from past the hospital and just onto the baseball stadium?
Yeah. Why not? That sounds like a perfect fix, one tram line down past Wilsonville. And I personally look forward to whenever there's some extra innings baseball game that takes us past to whenever the tram stops for the sports writers coming out of the press box. I don't know, man. I had a few people reply to that tweet like, "Oh, they're not just going to throw around $50 million unless they have a plan," which is like, yeah, obviously, but it doesn't mean the plan's not good. like, I'm willing to see. Obviously, I would love to be wrong, and I'm willing to see what they have to present. But it seems like a rough area, and it seems like all of their news is in response to whenever Utah or Nashville or a different area makes a sizable step forward. So. Yeah, if Portland wants to come out and be ahead of something and tell us some news that's not playing catch up, like I would love to be happy about it. But right now it just seems like a hypothetical angry drive-through traffic.
But you get that tram going. I was going to say monorail, but I spent some time in Seattle.
Monorail.
Exactly.
Monorail.
Exactly. In North Haverbrook. That's where they put him in. Tyson Alger, you can find him on, that's a deep cut. Tyson Alger on Twitter, at Tyson Alger. Subscribe to the I-5 corridor for crying out loud. If you haven't already, you can hear him each and every Wednesday on this particular program. Tyson, have a terrific day, bud. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely, man. Take care.
There we go. Tyson Alger. It's just, get that tram going. It's the whole thing. Just keep it. It's on the way. All right. We're going to wrap up the big show. We got the RCM mailbag next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up the big show. Do that the same way each and every day with the RCM mailbag. Random questions, any subject, any topic, nothing is off limits, and I will not duck the tough questions. By the way, let's keep that intro. That was good.
I knew you were jamming out over
They
there.
got me fired up. They got me going. So, that being said, let's get to the mailbag. Hey.
Was forced to weigh in on the issue in 1893 because they were trying to determine whether
It's a good start. All right, do we got one more?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's see, Justin. What is your favorite reality TV show right now?
All right, do we
There's always
count like because like Vanderpump came back last night. Vanderpump, it's still Southern Charm.
But rocking Southern Charm, I like that.
But Southern Charm is going through a crisis.
Uh-oh.